Okay.
What does better mean to you? How do you quantify something as better than in your eyes? Every decision we make is a cross-reference across many variables, and we look to go with the better option. Better for us, better for them, better for each other, better. And something that speaks to this is buying a camera. The purchasing decision is a myriad of micro decisions that are constantly testing what we value. And what we look to do is hopefully get something that is better than what we have and hopefully move our creativity forward. I picked up a Leica M6 because it was the better than option for where I was in my creative journey. And in this review, I'm going to explain why. This video will either confirm or challenge your opinion on this product, but I assure you, this is more about the journey than the destination. Let's get it started. Good morning and welcome back everyone, and if it's your first time here, I just want to say that the reviews here are done a little bit differently. You might notice that either through this review or in previous videos, and that's because a lot of time goes into the pre-production, the writing, the editing, all these little pieces that make these videos feel informative and engaging. So with that said, please do consider subscribing to the channel because it does help the growth and other people to discover these videos. Now, enough of that shameless plug, let's get into this review. The Leica M6 was introduced back in 1984, and the reason that it stands the test of time and the reason you see so much content around it was because this was a course correction for the designers at Leica. The predecessor, the M5, was not a commercial success, and it made people question the brand. So after much rethinking, Leica came out and produced this, the M6, and it was really something that was designed to win back Leica users. And this camera went on to achieve a bit of a legendary status in the film photography community. When you pick up an M6, you're greeted with heft and density. Despite this camera using a magnesium alloy instead of the heavier brass that was used in previous models, it's still a lot heavier than it looks. The iconic profile of this camera is just beautifully symmetric, and you approach it as if you were approaching a baseball to hold on to, not like you're gonna wrap around it like a DSLR. It isn't the most ergonomic grip, especially if you're shooting for hours at a time, but by no means is it terrible. The styling of this camera screams hold me. It's a stark departure than what the M5 looked like. It's a very minimalist aesthetic that only gives room for the most necessary features, and despite that, it's still one of the most advanced mechanical rangefinder cameras that you can find. The viewfinder is nice, it's bright, and it has a 0.72 magnifications. This is what you're gonna find on most M6 cameras. And you have the ability to meter light with two simple LED arrows. When both arrows are illuminated, you know you have a good exposure. When the left arrow is lit up by itself, it means the image is too dark. And when the right arrow is lit up, it's too bright. This simple feedback allows you to quickly gauge what the exposure should be and correct as needed. It should be said that despite its advanced mechanical design and simple metering system, this is by no means an easy camera to use. There is no autofocus in a camera like this. The camera expects you to do the work. How you find focus is when you look through the viewfinder, you have these two images that are superimposed on each other, and you rotate that focus ring to line them up as accurately as possible. That's how you get started with a camera like this. However, what you really want to do is get good at gauging distance and reading light, so you're able to grab a shot without necessarily relying on the viewfinder. That is to say, when you approach a situation, you're reading the light, choosing the appropriate aperture, lining it up with the film speed that you have, and using zone focusing, that is to look at your distance scale on your lens to gauge the approximate distance that your subject will be in focus, only then grabbing the picture, not having to rely on that viewfinder in a manner that seems like witchcraft to any strangers that are watching you do this. Getting good at this is very tricky and in some instances can be maddening, but when you figure this out and you get good at it, It's like getting a seat on the Jedi High Council of Photography. And the fun doesn't stop there, but before I continue, I just want to quickly remind you guys that my print shop is open. I still have a few prints available for purchase. All these images were shot, edited, and printed by yours truly, and you can find the link below. So if you're interested in supporting the channel and getting some cool art for your home, check it out, bokablink.com/store. You'll find all the details there. Now, back to this review. The Leica M6 can shoot film as fast as ISO 6400, and the shutter speed goes up to 1/1000th of a second. It also takes two SR44 batteries. These batteries are pretty easy to find, whether it's a convenience store or drugstore, you can find them pretty easily. And according to Leica, you should be able to get through 130 rolls of film before you need to replace them. And it doesn't stop there, because this is one of the few film cameras that you can use even without a battery. If you don't have a battery, you won't be able to meter light, but it will still fire at 1/60th and 1/1000th of a second. You're just gonna have to meter based on what your eye sees and make a really close approximation. So quite simply, in the worst circumstances, you could still take pictures, and that's kind of mind-blowing. This camera was built to outlive us pathetic humans. It's something that scoffs at the idea of bad weather, rust, corrosion, and simply asks, what next? That level of engineering is what makes this camera even more joyful to use. You don't have to baby it. It empowers you to focus on the moment and just shoot. Just keep going. And in that regard, it reminds me of the Black Knight from Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Even in the most turbulent conditions, there's a good chance that this camera is going to keep working. Loading film on this camera is also really easy to do. You remove the bottom plate, open the back cover, then take your film, extend the film out, slide it in, get it in between the forks, then close the back cover, put the bottom plate back on, fire 2 blanks, and you're good to go. And you got to think, back in 1984, and even comparing it to some film cameras that came out afterwards, this is a really quick mechanism to get up and running and shooting again. It might sound crazy to some people, but loading film in a camera like this just has this rewarding feeling to it. It's equal parts Rube Goldberg machine and magic, where it just feels superb every single time you do it. I don't know how else to say it. What I will say though is, if you're interested in the backstory of how I got this camera and using it for the first time, I'll leave 2 links. I have one where I give you the first impressions and the story of getting this camera, and the episode of Roaming where I actually take this out and use it for the first time and fail miserably. So if that sounds interesting to you, the links are in the description. Now, back to this. I talked about the idea of better at the beginning of this video, not the best. And well, that's because the best just doesn't exist, right? It's something that's best for you, not absolutely the best. And another point to that, well, even a camera like this can get better. The Leica M6 TTL was introduced in 1998 and ran through 2002 and was the replacement for this camera, and it made small but noticeable improvements to refine this product even further. It offered flash TTL, as the name would suggest. It also introduced a new red dot in between the 2 arrows of their metering system, and the shutter dial got bigger and allowed you to rotate in the right direction. And yes, the original Leica M6, the shutter dial rotates in the wrong direction, and this is because it was borrowed from older film cameras that relied on clip-on metering systems. So it was just something that was borrowed from a previous system, not innovated for the new style of rangefinder photography. These are 3 simple refinements that made this product better for some people. So if you're the type of person that values those changes and sees the worth, invest in the TTL version and don't look back. Keep in mind though that this does come at a noticeable price difference, and if you're asking me, well, it doesn't lead to better pictures. For me, the original M6 is not a type of camera you'd use with flash, and the shutter interaction, well, that becomes a habit. You just learn how to use it. It's not that hard. And the metering system with the 2 arrows, it just feels simpler and easier to gauge to keep shooting and get something that is close to what you're looking for. But again, that's just me. Whichever flavor of the M6 you buy into, you are still undoubtedly getting a premium product that is built to last and stand the test of time. There is such inherent beauty and simplicity in a camera like this that you want to take it and use it more often than not. And luckily for you, the Germans designed something here that could eat through thousands of rolls of film and keep going. You may need to clean and lubricate this from an authorized repair center at some point in the future, but the level of foresight and craftsmanship in a camera like the M6, well, it's just not something you see in most cameras, even made today. You can take this camera and compare it to other cameras on the market and conform to your values and morals and really come to an opinion on how good this thing is. But there is no denying that the Leica M6, a camera like the M6, it does sit in a special class of its own. With all that said, where have I landed with this camera? The Leica M6 is better than my Nikon F5. It's better than my X100V. It's better than my X-T4. It's better than my X Pro 3. Because when I go through my thought exercise and put this up against any of those cameras, weighing the tangible and intangible values, the M6 comes out on top every single time. Why? It simply works. I mean, look at the manual that came with this camera. It's only a little over 40 pages. That is absurdly simple. Further, it's evident that film photography isn't dying anytime soon, and well, the M6 can shoot pictures even without batteries. It's a camera that just works. It flips the bird to megapixels and ultra high definition recording, and quite simply, it just does not give a flying fuck what you think about it. The Leica M6 has this gravitas to it that makes it undeniably great. And if you're asking me, it's just better. And there you have it, everyone, my review of the Leica M6. It is safe to say that I am very passionate about this camera, but more importantly, what do you guys think? Or is there another dream camera of yours that you think needs some attention? Let's continue this conversation in the comments below. As always, my name is Gajan. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.